All right, so go ahead and tell us your name and your professional background.
Okay, well, my calling is Aaron. I'm going to correct you on that.
Okay, you're calling.
My professional background spans health and fitness
Mhm.
and software development pretty much for since I was early teens, so 14, 15. Um, I dropped out of school and got a job. I went to my teacher, I had an offer for $65,000 back when I was 14. So I basically started working with a few companies, work with CEOs, educated from CFOs, CEOs, and was in professional sports and so I was doing a lot of different things with. I was a professional snowboarder, water
Mhm.
skier,
Mhm.
growing up, and it's always been about sports and technology.
Ah, okay. Well, how
Uh,
long have you been in this, what we call freedom fight or sovereign movement?
well, the sovereignty movement began when I witnessed basically blatant harm
Mhm.
being done to the men and women through systematic harm, different deception, coercion. Being that I was in the health and fitness, I knew the FDA was sideways and everything was going on, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I started searching and started diving into history because I knew you got to start from the basics and just wondering what was going on. And I just happened to meet a few people and kept looking, kept searching, and Anna, you know, came to my awareness, and I was already questioning the legitimacy of the legal system, and just everything of her context and her conversation and what she brought to the table made was common sense and logical, and
Mhm.
that's kind of where my introduction to the state nationals, me being a state citizen at the time. I mean, I've been
Mhm.
a state citizen for about 3.5 years now.
Okay. And what assembly are you on? What state are you on? And how are
I'm
you
on
involved in your
I'm on Florida, so
Florida?
I'm on
Mhm.
Florida.
Do you hold any offices? What capacity do you serve Florida?
Well, I was training at the time for sheriff, um, at the time,
Mhm.
and through my experience and everything else that I went through, that I decided that I'm better engagement being something more of a lawful guidance and giving education than getting involved with all that nonsense, because that just my experience was okay. I don't really want to jeopardize it that far.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know.
that is why I asked for you to offer us some advice in the on the theme of law, and because you're studying law from all jurisdictions.
Yes.
Mhm.
Basically, you're you're doing a transition from their statutory conditions and what they've been trained. I mean, this is just what they've been prepared through their educational systems. So I basically, my logic would be to at first, you know, explain their law, the context, get into equity, get into, different concepts within, the Constitution and everything else, and kind of piece it together, and then present it in a understandable way, a logical way that basically is overwhelming to most. And they like, de facto like to, ignore. But in circumstances like what I'm dealing with right now, is that they're in no place. They have only one option, and that's engagement, and that's peaceful engagement. Giving them um the right position that we're not giving up our sovereignty. We're still coming in, basically rebutting all their assumptions, presumptions, um,
Mhm.
and
Now
just
you
looking at what it is, because we are the law. I mean, we are the people, and they're governmental service servants. So I mean, they have certain guidelines and laws that they have to abide by, which they haven't been for a long time. They've strayed away. They've got
Mhm,
way
mhm.
far off the range. So
So you're serving as, is it a private litigator right now?
that's private. So what I've been
Mhm.
doing is I've been operating as a private attorney general. If you go
Mhm.
into trust law under 15 USC 15, you can inject yourself as a private private attorney general, and plus under, uh, sorry, 42/1988, a private litigant too as well under that, because that's under, civil law, even though the civil law drives me nuts because I know it's Roman civil law, it's
Mhm.
still, you have to engage them at some, uh, and I'm engaging them in their own courts at this time until we have our courts set up. So, that's why, you know, you have to do it under the pretense. But I also give, like, for instance, on this one court case that I'm working right now, I
Mhm.
am working on I sent you the notice. I think I did a
Mhm.
request for trial by jury, so I'm converting it into a common law court, at least tempting with these cases. But in the concept and the principles, knowing the principles, being able to, switch the jurisdiction, because they're operating in maritime and commerce.
Yeah, take us through that there. You operate in all the jurisdictions, but you know how to switch the jurisdictions. So with this particular case, for an example, how did it start? And then where are you leading it to?
Well, we were talking about corruption all the way up to the attorney general with property stealing land here.
Mhm.
And they weren't in I guess it would be the circuit courts.
The
Uh,
circuit.
the
Okay.
circuit courts, they were just ignoring everything. They were ignoring all the claims. They were treating, like, the mother, which was a Special Forces 6 class, basically in the top 10 elite forces, and she was wondering what was going on. And it's a very nice family, and they just basically, the attorneys have injected themselves, contracted themselves into, and then we're starting to, segregate even though they had a private corporation, a private business agreement, um, that was registered with the state as a private business because it was private land. They've transferred it into the public, through the probate process, because the way the capacity they're operating in, they're just fraudulent. They're projecting that they're lawful, but they're operating in commerce because they didn't have the right without disclosure. Um,
Um,
and
this
then the
this
attorneys
woman
are all ganged up.
is this woman a state national or just a U.S. citizen?
Tyler was a US citizen, but he has, now been papered up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just based on discussion, he didn't even know it was this. I mean, this is a rancher that lives out works with cattle, so he wasn't prepared. His family weren't. He wasn't prepared. He's prepared to operate the ranch, but not prepared to defend himself against,
Mm-hmm.
pirates. The legal piracy that's going on.
So how do you see him, how do you see taking him through to a win is you taking it to a jury? So is this you switching it to a common law court?
That's what I'm attempting to do right now. And if they're not able to do the conversion and adhere to their own laws and um, what their responsibilities are, is what I'll do is I'll take it to the Supreme Court. I'll file it up, and then I'll just hold the civil suit, the 1983, 1985, 1986. Because there's different violations of what these people done. It's a laundry list. It's insane what these guys have done. And it's
Mm-hmm.
factual. It's in transcripts and everything else. You can clearly see the judges leading attorneys, and it's a whole bunch of nonsense that they had to go through. And they
Mm-hmm.
basically rejected any of the motions, everything that the family did to protect. But under South Dakota law, they have to protect their heirs. So it's neglect to prevent on the judges, um
Mm-hmm.
on their what their procedural, and they're just, it's crazy what these people have done.
Now, what experience do you have prior to this that made you confident that you can pull this off, switching jurisdictions and all this? What has
Well,
been your
I've been
interaction
in
before
I've
this?
been in a professional capacity for a long time. I've trained people with doing software. I've worked as an IT director. I've worked as a CTO. I'm good with learning a capacity because I've had to learn my whole entire life. Um, and
Well, but
and,
this is
and
law, so,
this is 10
and
times hard. Well, software is not easy either, though.
mhm,
So let's
yeah, yeah.
let's let's put this, algorithm and fundamentals, and I've been studying law now for maybe 5 years.
Hmm.
Really hardcore with like we're talking 18-hour days within the last 2 years, 13 years, or last 2 or 3 years.
Hmm.
Just because the law was off and everything's happening, and instead of going down and tearing down 5G towers, no one's defending anything, no one's doing all the water, everything, the chemtrails, just everything. It just compounded, and you're looking at these attorneys and what are you guys doing? Like you have, what are actually, how are you actually looking after the people? You're just like you're omitting and skipping and ignoring the facts of what's going on, and no one's doing anything. I mean, these people, I had an issue with Facebook because I lost a million and a half business. I had a dating site service that I set up for India, and I had 18 different businesses on Facebook, and I was speaking out because of my health and fitness background. I knew that the jabs were dangerous, so I spoke out on that, and this was like in 2000, and I lost uh, at the time it was generating $300,000 per year, and I had projection that following year that was to make at least $1 million that year, and the season just started out. So this is when I started really, really focusing on law because I started calling attorneys myself. I'm like, I had 18 businesses. What happened to freedom of speech? Like I'm this information that's coming out is completely incorrect. I don't care who they are. I don't care if the top doctor in the world. You can't be injecting yourself with this crap. And so that's when I basically really dug in and started learning the law.
So when you said injecting yourself, is this during the time of COVID or this
The
is?
COVID stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah.
you lost these 18 businesses because you was talking about that topic. They shut all so these 18 businesses, were they
They're all
online
they were
URLs?
all online businesses. Most of my
So all
business.
those URLs, they shut down?
Well, I was facilitating businesses through Facebook because I've been in online marketing and you know, web development,
Hmm.
for over 34 or 35 years. So I knew how to build up little side businesses that would generate revenue, perpetual revenue. So I had a bunch of these different businesses operating. The biggest one, what cost most investment, was the dating site. Um, and that wasn't even, the market wasn't even American. It was actually an Indian market
Hmm. So when
because
you
I work
lost
with
the
software
businesses, did you
engineers
have
in
to,
India.
oh, in India? So you don't, do you practice or do you do law in India too?
No,
Oh.
no, 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 no. I was doing it through the American
Mhm.
Facebook organization
Okay.
or whatever you want,
All
Meta,
right.
what they call it now, right? So
Mhm.
that was predominantly because of the circulation. It actually is a good circuit. As you can really focal point, you can do pinpointed marketing campaigns to different market segments really precisely within different geographical areas, regardless. So
Okay.
as a very cost-effective way for marketing, Facebook was one of the top ways of generating leads.
Okay, so I want you to get this point across to us. How do we, in our sovereign capacities, recognize what jurisdictions we are in and transition from one to the other in the proper way?
Well, here right
Again,
now, it's
let's do a for example, because
okay.
this is the biggest example. Traffic tickets. So how do we do that?
Well, it all depends. The main thing right now is you don't want to do anything that will affect any action that you take that has a negative consequence. So instead of arguing with the cop on the side of the road and being argumentative, it's best just to take the ticket and do a rescission of contract and deal with it after the fact, and then send them, the Eugene, the notice of liability and Eugene process will work quite effectively for those type of circumstances.
Mhm.
Um, you know, doing that, I guess if they do not engage and they reject what is being submitted and they continue to push forward because they love to bulldoze. They absolutely ignore things and bulldoze. At that point, then you can pull it into, a civil suit because you're operating in two different capacities as well. I mean, there's no way at this point in time to really do a transfer over because everyone around us is in this imaginary fictional world. So unless you want to totally isolate yourself as a community, which is kind of highly impossible right at this point in time until we have funds and reorganize and everything else. Um, you
So the
kind of
civil
have
suit. Mhm.
UCC is the fundamental to all operations, right? So the UCC operating in commerce, which which you can operate in, but you just don't want to. Once you rescind all different contracts, you have to be very careful about how you engage and how you contract with corporations at this point, unless it's just an adhesion contract that they will not allow you. Because that's coercion, duress, forcing contract, subordination of perjury and everything else that comes involved. So there's fundamentals of how we need to change the system or enlighten, educate everybody that's involved. I mean, the financial, what I was looking at is hopefully when the money does come out, they'll say, oh, what's going on here? And if we all act in honor and start educating the community and start coming, open hearts and open hands, we can definitely make an impact because everybody's been bamboozled, right? So
Mhm, mhm.
to say that we're better or anything else. Everybody should have a choice, and no one's had a choice. So we're at this point in society time where we have to deal with things like, forgive those for trespass against us has a very good, standing. Yeah, most of these people that are attacking you, if they understood what you were actually doing for them, since we're, media outlets and different exposures as we build our presence, which we're doing a good job of building, we'll see the 101 monkey effect, the cognitive dissonance kind of disappear because you're getting the conscious of the collective.
So you would say, if I
Education.
understand, yeah. So,
Media, getting the right media, getting transferred. Just keep doing what we're doing. Just, once the money comes in, when we have that publicity and promotion and understanding and education, and then having a few groups that have the capacity to engage these courts at a professional courtesy level, because even the court cases that I've done, the judges have no idea what you're talking about. These guys, we're talking about two generations removed. Most of the judges that are 40 years old have never been exposed to any of this type of information. So you're
mm,
talking Martian to them.
mhm.
That's what I'm finding. In
Mm,
not all cases. I mean, some of them will know and they'll start getting intrigued. Like the one case that I had that was completely wiped off when I was engaging them for, child trafficking. And that's when I had my incident, and that's forget being for me. I don't want anything. I don't want to harm anybody. I don't want to have that intimidation. I don't need that. I don't need weapon. I've never carried a gun in my life, so why would I start now? You know what I mean? I know it's
mm,
good to have it, but I don't operate like that.
mhm.
So I
So,
bought.
so you would say we can operate in our private capacity at the beginning of any interaction and try to not engage in commerce by rescinding, sending back the traffic ticket or however way we want to do by letting them know we don't want to contract with them. But if they
Yes.
keep pushing and they don't recognize what we're saying and actually forcing a contract on us, then we have the option you're saying to go civil suit, and that would be in their court. Is that right?
Well, if
Until we.
our courts are not up at this point in time,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And then most people are trying to go like with the fee schedules and stuff like that and leaning and stuff like that. I mean, I think we've kind of taken. I know initially when I want to go after them, I want to take them out. The first thing that'll hurt them is money. There is no money. So
mhm,
so it's like, why are we compounding the issue of once we can eliminate the fact that the education that they've been bamboozled at the money that they're
mhm,
using, and that's there's so much information, but it's so suppressed. So I feel when we have the, the capability of, ramping up the exposure just through, a little bit of funding, we can make
Well,
a drastic change.
well, what would you be going into the civil, into the court in a civil suit for? What would your claim be if they
Oh,
disregarded
for a
all of
traffic violation? Well, first off, they're violating your rights. I mean, it's they're operating in different capacity. First off, the sheriffs don't even know that they're operating as corporations. So they have a commercial right, and then they have a constitutional right. And as soon as they violate the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Even if we go on their stuff, but let them, most of their stuff. So you can defend yourself with just their constitution,
Mm-hmm.
and then make sure that you're well known, that you're not the corporate fiction, you're not the entity. Disclose the fact that you're not, their game of what the different capacities that, they'll there's no cess to QV trust, there's no semen say, well, hold on a second here. In your canon here, this book here on 2031 and to 2057, it says right there that you strictly recognize. Have you not read the book, the canons? Do you not operate judicial canons? Sorry, I said canons, but canons. So
Mm-hmm.
right there, they're going to be like, oh, oh. So
Mm-hmm.
knowing the information, because
Okay.
they're never going to admit that they're wrong. They're always going to bowl over from my experience. And until we can change that they think they're going to be prosecuted, right? So they don't know that we've offered um amnesty,
Amnesty.
right? So they haven't recognized that. So they're anything that goes against them, they're already feeling threats. So their croc brain is going to trigger.
Mhm.
And that's when the defensive, and you don't want people to get defensive. You want to be,
Okay.
you know,
So you don't want to go for the juggler. You just
well,
want
you do, but you do it with a smile.
Okay. So you basically still throughout the whole process standing on your rights,
Yes,
even when you're in the civil suit. That's really what you're going in there for, to uphold your rights and get them to recognize it.
absolutely. And I wasn't in this particular case that I'm working on now. I injected myself as a plaintiff just to circumvent the representation, the legal, the pro se. I objected to pro se because you never want to be. That's um, you know, a subset of their legal system, and that automatically the terminology converts you when you operate as pro se because it's a legal term. So
Is in
propria
propria persona the
persona,
same?
sura juris is how you want
Oh,
him,
okay.
right? Like
Okay.
that's in first person, right? That's the man. You can do it like that, but then they're gonna give you the arguments that, oh, you're a sovereign citizen. I'm like, well, communists don't have rights under Title 50. Antitrust violations. So where do you want to take this? Is that an order, sir? Well, because if that's an order, I got a bill for you.
Okay. But so would you use your fee schedule?
I would use my ski trips, and I have used it, but I haven't done too many leans because I don't like the projection of um perpetuating is the right word, the whole their money system. I'm not there
Mhm. Mhm.
to, I really don't care about the money at
Okay.
this point.
Mhm.
I've done well my whole entire life, and I know I'll do well again. I'm not even worried about it. So,
Okay. Mhm. Well, I appreciate that, Aaron, for bringing to the table the different perspectives on all the jurisdictions and how you would implement it and execute it, and how you've been experiencing it yourself. Did you have other things that you might want people to know before we end this call?
well, I think when we're working on these projects that you've done a fantastic job of organizing. I mean, everybody's done an amazing job. It's we're kind of waiting on a little bit of funding to do the exposure, and we should, put together a um proposal, not just for having the website, but for exposure too, because the one thing that I've done through experience is that, it's like building a project or doing you're going to do a movie, you're going to spend $1 million, but you're going to spend, $3 million, two of that in marketing and exposure. So these are considerations that, just to get people, people are looking for the information right now, and we're not having the visibility that we'd all like. I know that, and we'd have a lot more. Like South Dakota, they only have 45 people on the state.
Mhm.
And these guys are all looking for a solution. Everybody's like, what is going on? You know what I mean? So it's just knowing about it, and then it's the fear. So when we have successes, we really have to hammer in and expose those successes, um, to be able to bring it to light that the whole legal aspect of things is so off-sided, lopsided, upside down.
Mhm.
Um,
It
I
doesn't
mean,
really serve us at
yeah,
all.
it's not serving anybody.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
harming anybody who engages it. The only people that are benefiting are the attorneys and judges. Everybody else is getting bled dry.
So Aaron, I thank you for being part of our advisory video series. And that will be the end of all the questions that I had, and I think people could benefit from.
No, I
Now,
appreciate it.
if people want to contact you, is there some information that you want to give us for them to
Um,
contact you?
yeah, well, my
Regarding,
email is Aaron Prince, ASN at Proton Mail.
okay,
Um, my cell phone, is this keeping with us, the group? Is this
no cell phone.
okay? Okay.
Okay, so I appreciate you. You have a good day, okay?
Okay, you as well.
All right, thanks.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye-bye.